Pacers beat the Cavs in crunch time. They officially will be hosting a first-round series. It took a lot to get it done, maybe more than the Pacers would have wanted, but the result's what matters, and what do they still care about the rest of the season? We'll break it all down today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, y'all? Happy Friday. Congrats. You made it through the week, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today, the Pacers get it done. They will be hosting a series that starts in Gainbridge Fieldhouse for the first time since 2014. They beat the Cavs by 2. Another crunch time win. Wasn't pretty, wasn't hideous. They were in it the whole time, but I think given the available players for the Cavs, the Pacers would have liked to play a little better. They didn't shoot great again, but they found ways to get it done. A couple that stood out early, a couple that stood out late, and a couple that they found along the way. Jarris Walker was awesome. And now what's next? 2 more games for the Pacers. They have home court. They can still get to 3 should they want to. What should they want? I'll give my take, but tell you now, it's kind of whatever you think of other teams, more so than what you think of the Pacers. Let's start with the game. The Pacers get it done 114-112 over the Cavaliers. I thought very early it became clear to me from the way the game was being played where the Pacers' big advantage was in this game, which is crazy to say about a game they won by 2. In the half-court offense for the Pacers, I don't have their half-court versus transition numbers in front of me. It felt like the Pacers, it was quite a chore for them to get the paint touches they like, right? 42 points in the paint for them in this game. That's pretty low. There was one possession that stands out to me, and I don't want to make too much of one possession, but Andrew Nembhard had the ball in the left slot. There's like 7 left on the shot clock, and Myles Turner's trying to get out of the way, basically. So he kind of runs behind Nembhard, but that means Turner's defender, which was DeAndre Hunter, just like slid into Nembhard's way. So there were 2 guys guarding the ball, and then the shot clock's running down, so Nembhard has to try something, and he just gets that elbow mid-ranger he likes and didn't get close. And it was just that kind of thing that I thought, man, they don't look the most connected. Like he couldn't see the lane with 2 guys on and the spacing was off. And then Dean Wade hit a 3 and a second chance points on the other end. And I thought, man, what is going on? That was a little tough against the Cavs defense. But the rest of their possessions that weren't against a set Cavs defense were really good. When they cut up the tempo, they looked great. My evidence for that would be that they dominated the fast break points department. 23 fast break points for the Pacers, just 6 for the Cavs. Pacers with 14 points off of turnovers in this game. That is where the Pacers, I thought, shined, and that's what their style has always proven to be, is they want to hit the open floor. They dominated in that department in this game, and when they got into that kind of space, that's when they were really good. Early, they get a 3, they're up 6-0 in a flash, right? Exactly what they want. And they're doing a really good job early, I thought, of getting into their offense from their defense. That's why for much of the first quarter, they were ahead. Even early into the second quarter, they were defending well enough to do that. Once the Cavs got rolling on the other end, Ty Jerome was awesome. A lot of Cavs bench players had nice first halves. DeAndre Hunter had a good game. You know, they could set their defense enough to really disrupt the Pacers. But that speed was where I thought the Pacers got their most advantages in those games, right? And they were trying to up the pressure against the Cavs to force them into tougher possessions with turnovers, right? Only 11 turnovers for the Cavs. The Pacers still won the turnover battle. They didn't do awesome at that, but like one possession, for example, Thomas Bryant is up 60 feet from the basket on defense. He's guarding Tristan Thompson, who's setting a screen because the Pacers are applying full court pressure, right? They're trying to speed the Cavs up, force some mistakes, make life harder for them so they can get into transition, get some fast break points, get the game juiced up and moving. And in large part, they did just enough of that. In fact, basically everything they did well in this game, they did just enough of it because they won by 2 points. But I thought that was where the Pacers got their advantage, because in just specifically the half court, things were just a little off for them in a way that was kind of tough for them to overcome, right? They got enough solutions, but the players who you'd think typically of as thriving in faster paced settings, I thought had better games. Tyrese Haliburton was plus 15, for example. Obi Toppin, I thought, was the most Jarris was really good. Obi Toppin was, in terms of stylistically, I thought the most impactful bench player, even though Jarris had an awesome game. and Ben Mathurin had a huge second half. Like, that's the kind of stuff Obi does in these games. He ups the tempo. He makes life hard on the other team and puts pressure on the rim. He made all 3 of his 2-point shots. Like, that's a good Obi Toppin game. That is where I thought the Pacers separated themselves in this game. And it was really hard for either of these teams to do exactly that, separate themselves. Obviously, no Cavs starters in the second half. Jared Allen only played the first half. Kenny Atkinson got tossed. This is like the most air quotes Cavs of all time. They still have good players. Like, this team is much better than the Wizards team the Pacers just played, even without their whole starting 5. Ty Jerome's been really great all year. He would have my vote for 6th man and maybe most improved. DeAndre Hunter's obviously a decent player. I love Dean Wade. Jared Allen did, in fact, play half the game and get 10 rebounds. And especially so when you get this many threes from Sam Merrill, who made 5. Isaac Okoro made some shots. Craig Porter made some shots. Tristan Thompson had 12 boards. Like, the Cavs' style and talent wasn't a joke. We'll talk about one moment that what I thought it was. Regardless, it wasn't. It should have been better for the Pacers, but either way, I've over-explained this. They were within like 9-6, like the whole game. They were only down double digits for 1 possession. They were down 11 in the middle of the third quarter, and they immediately scored. So they were keeping it close. They just couldn't find enough of those little things. But it was the transition and the pace stuff that got them into it. And so in the fourth quarter, the Cavs started it blazing hot. They hit, I think, their first 6 threes of the quarter. But once that faded away, and once the Cavs didn't have just something awesome to the offense rolling, they really, really deteriorated in a way that let the Pacers go. The Cavs went 2 for 13 on 2s in the fourth quarter. And those are the chances the Pacers are best at running off of, right? When they have a missed layup from their opponent, they know someone's under the basket, far from the play, they go, right? And I thought they were really good in transition. I thought that is where they showed the most separation, because this Cavs zone was really good, right? Or whatever it was. I couldn't tell. It wasn't like a unique zone, right? Even though I put in my notes, it felt like it was unique at one point, because there were like these kind of traps on the sides or on the wings. That is like not atypical for a zone, but just in a way that made me think they were just trapping the ball or something. But it was obviously a zone, and it's just how it goes for the Pacers. Sometimes seeing these zones, they figure it out and they do well against it, like they did against Miami earlier this year. And sometimes, like a lot of games, like Milwaukee on New Year's Eve and a couple others, they see a zone and they know what they're supposed to do, but they just freeze, or like it just throws them off their rhythm so much that it really hurts. And as Caitlin Cooper always talks about, that leads to stops, and then the other team scores, and they get set their zone, and it just snowballs and snowballs. And so for a while, that Cavs zone was preventing the Pacers from getting in transition enough. And that's why it was important for the Pacers themselves to be getting stops and forcing the Cavs into such a poor fourth quarter efficiency-wise, so that they could then turn that into transition chances, get them out of the half court, get them easy chances to score. And they did a really, really good job of that. So despite a lot of things I thought going not the way the Pacers would typically want, right? They found enough threes late, but they were 14 for 41 from deep in this game. And that includes a 5 for 8 fourth quarter. So once again, a poor shooting night. Their field goal percentage was hovering in the mid 30s until, deep in the second half. They lost the rebounding battle. They had fewer assists than they do on their best nights, right? A lot of stuff that would say, man, they didn't play the greatest, and the Cavs were missing a lot of guys, and it took all those guys being out for the Pacers to win by 2. They did find enough solutions late, and when they needed big shots, they got them. Huge 3 from Tyrese Haliburton in the final minutes, followed by another huge 3 from Tyrese Haliburton in the final minutes, given the circumstances. Those were huge plays. And then the biggest non-scoring play of the game was after a Haliburton miss, with the Pacers up 1 with 15 seconds to go. Myles Turner, a massive offensive rebound to keep possession for the Pacers. That made it a foul game. Nesmith did miss a fourth quarter free throw, but they got just enough late. But they really sealed it too was their defense, right? The Cavs did not score very often late in this game. They hit 107 on the scoreboard with 5 minutes and 20 seconds to go. They scored 5 points the remainder of the game, right? So 1 point a minute down the stretch. That lets the Pacers get in transition. That obviously keeps the Cavs off the scoreboard. That is how the Pacers ended up escaping again. The escape artist Pacers, as they have become since mid-March. They have done so well in these close games to find the answers that they need. We'll talk more about some little details of the final minutes and Jarris Walker and many of the things in the second segment. But that is how the Pacers secured home court. They forced Jalen Tyson to miss on the last possession. Nembhard did a great job not letting Craig Porter get a 3 off. And that is win number 49 for the Pacers. For the astute of you, that was my preseason wins projection number. They have 2 chances to beat it and make me look dumb, which they do all the time. Let's talk about a couple more things from this game. Jarris Walker, the Cavs closing lineup, and a couple other notes that are important before we talk about the significance of home court advantage and plenty more playoff scenarios for the Pacers. Before we do any of that, though, we need to talk about DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh. You save thanks to Dash Pass. Every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more points in a game during the 2024-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. A few ways you can take advantage of such a deal. After an epic 50-point performance, celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot delivered straight to your door. Whether you're staying up watching highlights or just need a midnight snack, use Dash Pass. Grab something delicious while saving big. Need a quick and easy lunch for the next day? Well, with Dash Pass, you get your favorite meals with $0 delivery fees and reduced service fees. And now you save even more with this exclusive offer. Planning to catch the next game? Well, guess what? Order your go-to snacks and meals at a discount. Get ready for more high-scoring action. Sign up for Dash Pass. Be ready to save when any player scores 50 or more in a game. Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Make Locked On Cavs your second listen with Danny Cunningham, who, one, will tell you about this game that clearly did not mean a ton to the Cavs, but two, deserves your attention for correctly predicting the Cavs' effort level in these games late in the season. When we talked earlier this week, bravo to Danny. That's why I have local experts. Philip Rossman-Reich of Locked On Magic, speaking of predicting the Cavs maybe will take it easy tonight. Their entire starting five is questionable. We'll get into more of that later in this segment and in the third segment. Less important now. A couple other things that mattered to me from this Pacers win. Jarris Walker, again, fantastic game. I mean, look, if you make shots, you're going to look good. Made 3 threes, looked comfortable on offense. One of my favorite plays he's had this whole season in this game was not a made 3, was not some defensive thing, was he dribbled around a screen. He got into the lane. He was at the top of the key, and he got into a stance like he was trying to snake it, like he had a defender on his hip or something, and he didn't have anybody on him, but he's just surveying, dribbling just inside the three-point arc. All the defenders are just kind of frozen looking at him. No one's really open. So he just shot it and scored. And like that head up, dribble, read, assess, score. Like, yeah, he made a jumper and it wasn't like he created something amazing, but that was a very nice play. Running a pick and roll, executing, seeing all that and finishing, I thought was very impressive. In general, a very nice game from him. 15 points off the bench, 3 rebounds, a good bounce back too after the Wizards game. There was some effort in the first half. He didn't play in the second half, I don't think. I might be wrong about that, but I believe that's the case. He played 14 minutes and 43 seconds today. Deservedly, he was quite good in this one. And I still think the Pacers probably stick to 8 and a center in the playoffs, like I said on the playoff rotation discussion with Alex Golden, and that would leave Jarris and Ben Shepherd out. But if they're going to do it, I think Jarris has earned like a sniff, right? Why not? If they need to figure out some different rotational choices come postseason time. He's played well enough to at least merit that discussion. There was another bench moment that was concerning, though, when, in these kind of games when the bench stinks for a long stretch, and TJ McConnell really picked it up in the second half. I thought Obi was good. Mathurin also was quite good in the second half. In fact, I should just pull up stats instead of babbling. Second half, McConnell made his only shot attempt. Mathurin was 4 for 7 with 8 points. Right, that was much better percentages and numeric things than their first half. In the first half, McConnell was 2 for 5 and Mathurin was 2 for 7. So in the first half, the Pacers bench felt so rocky and they weren't going to Siakam very much. And it was very perplexing to me when they go 4 bench guys plus Siakam, when they're bogged down like that, they've just got to find a way to get in the ball. And I know that there were doubles coming for Siakam on every touch, and that zone makes it hard for him to score in his favorite spots, but it just felt like it wasn't the case. And because of that, I put in all caps at one point, they need Mathurin to pop on either end, and he did in the third quarter. A couple other just stray things before we get into the ramifications of Thursday night action in the NBA when it comes to the Pacers. Ty Jerome, man. Whoo-wee. I mean, he couldn't guard the guy. He was awesome the last 2 games coming into this off of injury. He's been awesome all season. Again, he should win awards. He probably won't, but I think he should. 24 points on 16 shots. People were like, how is Ty Jerome doing this to the Pacers? He's been this good all year, although maybe this is a little high up. on the high end of his performances, both because he had 24 points and because Donovan Mitchell tweeted during the game, I don't even know how Ty Jerome was making all these shots, which made me laugh. He was awesome. The Pacers could not figure out how to stop him. I already mentioned most other things, so the last thing I want to get to, the Pacers have benefited from this 2 games in a row now. Look, the schedule worked out the way it did, that the Cavs had low incentive to win or lose, though, this game. But still, they closed with, even in a game without their normal starting 5, right? DeAndre Hunter had 23 and a double-double. Dean Wade was playing good defense and made 2 threes. Sam Merrill couldn't miss a 3 in the fourth quarter. I already talked about Jerome. And the Cavs still closed with Craig Porter, Isaac Okoro, Javonte Green, Tristan Thompson, and Jalen Tyson. Look, it's good for the Pacers that they won these games, and they found enough answers on both ends to do so. They have been very lucky with their opponents' closing 5s this week. They just have. The best closing 5 player they faced this entire week, Wizards and Cavs games included, is probably Isaac Okoro. I mean, pick who you like from these guys who have played. That is fortunate for the Pacers, right? They have to feel good about that. But again, you still have to take advantage of it. And you have to be in a position where that matters. And of course, the expectation should be that they're better than these teams that they're playing. But regardless, they did get it done against that group. But yeah, they should look back on that with some smiles, given the groups that they've played. Okay, what does this mean? First of all, that's big. It's big that the Pacers got this done. I said this yesterday. I've talked about it leading up to every standings watch, but getting this done now gives them not control necessarily, but a better outlook with 2 games left to just like let the cards kind of fall where they may in terms of how these games go. Like the results don't matter as much now. So for those unaware what I mean by that, the Pacers have clinched home court. Their seeding range now is 3 or 4. That's it. That's the only 2 seeds they can be. Game 1 and 2 of the first round series will be in Indianapolis. Should it go to a game 7, it would be in Indianapolis, right? The Pacers did not lose a game in Gainbridge Fieldhouse until the conference finals last year. Every game Tyrese Haliburton played in, they won in Gainbridge Fieldhouse last year in the playoffs. Like, yeah, it's a big deal, right? They won 1 game in Milwaukee, 2? No, they won 1 game in Milwaukee. They won 1 game in MSG. Like, that is enough when you are on the road. But if you have home, you don't even have to do that. You don't have to win any road games. Like, it is a huge deal to have home court advantage. And for a lot of guys on the roster, this is the first time they will ever have had it. Myles Turner's been with the Pacers for ages. This is his first home court advantage. They were the 4 seed in 2020, but that was the bubble year. So they were playing in not Indy anyway. And they obviously got swept in the first round. So this will be the first game 1 in Indianapolis since 2014, which is crazy to think about. Like, talk about whatever you want about this Pacers team and where they stand in the East or where they stand in the league. Like, this is a big deal. This is a big accomplishment. And it matters. Like, it actually gives you a benefit. I'll talk about 50 wins in the next segment. Like, yes, it's great. I'm not trying to diminish that at all. But, like, there's no tangible benefit to them now to getting 50. 51 is the number required for the 3 seed, which is why I say 50 specifically. But, it's a cool number. Like, getting home court is a tangible benefit. And I asked guys about that after the game. It wasn't just like, I get the fan part of it. Tyrese Haliburton gassing everybody up late in the game while the Cavs miss a clutch free throw. Like, yeah, the fans matter. But it's also things they talk about, like sleeping in your bed, knowing your routine of your day and the timing of everything down pat perfectly. Your family can come to the game. The traffic patterns of your city. Like, all that stuff adds up to something of value. And obviously having an extra game at home is a big deal. It has been for forever and ever. I can see data that tells you playing at home is better than playing on the road. It's a big deal that the Pacers have locked up home court advantage. Even if it's just for 1 round, it increases their chances of winning a round. That is a huge, huge deal. It cannot be understated enough. And that's why this mattered so much, that they found these crunch time solutions and did it as soon as they possibly could have because of what it allows their last couple of games to be. So that is just massive. Home court advantage. Siakam's had it before. I'd have to go through. It's not worth my time to go through this. Like, they have got, I think Neesmith did with Boston 1 year. Thomas Bryant obviously won a title. He's had it before. Some of these guys have experienced this, right? Maybe Obi Toppin did that best year with the Knicks. I think they were the 5 seed, but I can't remember. Regardless, it's a big deal. A lot of these guys will be a new experience to open the playoffs on their home floor and against teams that they have a better record than and will probably be the favorites again in the first round. They can only play Milwaukee or Detroit now in the first round. I think that was already the case entering today, but now it really is. I mean, they will probably be the favorites in those series. It's a huge deal. And they got it done with 2 games to go. So now what? What do the Pacers look at now? Let me give you all the information. I will tell you what I would do. I will tell you that there are a lot of factors at play that make it so there is no wrong answer. What is next for the Pacers in these last 2 games? Let's close out today's show talking about it. Before we do that, we need to talk about game time. There's nothing like the energy of a live game, and you're going to be able to watch playoff games in Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Whether it's catching a last-minute MLB showdown or soaking in the excitement of the NBA matchup, finding great seats at a great price, that used to be a challenge. Not anymore with Game Time. Game Time makes scoring last-minute tickets easier than ever. Prices actually drop as the game gets even closer. And with their all-in pricing, you see the total cost up front. No surprises at checkout. Many people love using Game Time for tons of reasons. You can save up to 60% off buying last minutes for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever. You can grab last minute seats for Pacers Magic or save big with their zone deals for that too. With seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee, you can book with total confidence. The lowest price guarantee means nobody ever worries about overpaying. And take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making this your first listen today and every single day. Make your second listen Locked On Pistons or Locked On Bucks, the 2 teams the Pacers could be playing in the first round, and they're playing each other Friday night, which is a huge game for determining who the Pacers' first round playoff opponent can be. Okay, there's still, so first of all, bear with me today, right? A lot of this will sound like gobbledygook, or I'm making up what teams' motivations could be, but I think this is not a pat myself on the back thing. This is just you look ahead at these games because of these motivational things, and I think I've done a pretty good job explaining them, and I've been right with the Cavs and the Wizards and some other games that matter for the Pacers. Knicks Pistons tonight, for example, the Bucks versus the Pelicans. So let's talk about what's left for the Pacers. They can still be the 3 seed if they win out and the Knicks lose out. We'll get to that in a second, which is why it's not an easy thing to figure out who they'll play or how this will all be structured, because the Pacers seed themselves could still move. So let me start with this. I don't know how much fan value is put on 50 wins specifically, right? I can't ascribe that myself. They get it with one more win, right? That's a big deal. They haven't won 50 games in an individual season since the last time they had home court, right? All those years ago in 2013-14 when they won 56 games. I will say this, the bubble year when they were the 4 seed, their win percentage was that of a 50-win team. They just didn't play enough games to get there because it was a shortened season. If you ascribe value to that, yes, you should want the Pacers to go for it, right? If you think the Pacers should really want to play the Pistons in the first round instead of the Bucks, then think about what that path could look like. If you want to play the Bucks, think about that. If you think the 3 seed is super cool and valuable, great. If you think it's easier to beat Boston than Cleveland, all these are factors that matter, right? So here's what I think myself. I have said for a while that I think the 4 seed is the right spot for the Pacers because I think the chance they beat Cleveland is, while very small, bigger than the chance they would beat Boston in a series. Again, these are not big numbers we're talking about. And I think that while also thinking the gap between the Bucks and Pistons in the first round is also somewhat small. In fact, perhaps not a gap at all. And if you think like me, that the Pacers would have a similar chance against either of their possible first-round opponents and a better chance against a certain second-round opponent, and they're at home no matter what, then I think the 4 seed, or if you think it's the Cavs, then I think the 4 seed's the right spot. If you think they have a better chance against Boston than Cleveland, and hey, I can't fault you for that. The Pacers beat the Celtics twice this year. The Cavs have clearly a better record. The Cavs bench just pushed the Pacers to the brink. Then great, you should want the Pacers to get the 3 seed, right? I can't fault you for that. I think the 4 seed is the right seed for the Pacers. Okay. The other factor here is the inverse standings. Now that the Pacers have home court locked up, they can think about this. They currently are 49-31. That's tied for the 6th best record in the NBA with the Lakers. The team with the 12th best record or 19th worst record right now is Memphis. They are 47-33. The Pacers could get to 33 losses this season if they lose both of their last 2 games. They could move up 7 spots in the draft order. Like, you can say, Tony, who cares? They're about to make the playoffs. They're about to host a series. Why should they care about the draft? And that's fine if you think that way. I got that reply from a few people tonight. Like, again, I'm not faulting anyone for thinking any sort of way about what the Pacers should do with these last couple games. But to me, I think 4 is their best spot. And I think if you already are going to be knowing who you're playing and you already improved on last year's win percentage and all this stuff is locked up, angling to potentially increase your draft pick seems like smart business. When stacked on top of that, if you don't play certain players and they can't get hurt, if their risk of injury goes from extremely low to literally 0, these are all huge advantages. So my strategy, if I'm the Pacers the rest of the season, would be significant rest for maybe all of the starters, honestly, like what the Cavs just did. All of the Magic starters are questionable for Pacers Magic because the Magic are for sure going to be the 7 seed. They can't move up or down. They have inverse standings things too, right? If they get to 41 or 42 losses, that could help them if they should they miss the playoffs. Even if they make it, it might help them depending on how some other stuff goes, right? So, like, these are considerations the Pacers have to make. Now, again, if you think the Pacers should get to 3 because you want them to play Detroit, which is likely Detroit would be 6, but it's not certain. We'll talk about that in a second, right? Then great, root for that. If you think it's really cool that your favorite team gets to 50 wins, I'm not telling you what to cheer for. I'm telling you what I would do as the Pacers. And what I would do as the Pacers is, especially Siakam, who I think, like, rest is good for him. He plays all the time. I thought Nembhard's needed rest for ages. I would not risk injury for anyone in the starting 5. And if I could, I would avoid any rotation player, but that's obviously not like feasible. You have to field the team in either of these last 2 games as the Pacers. Now, here's one hurdle before I get to all the other stuff. It is their final home game Friday night. It is fan appreciation night. Like, I understand if they play their best players for a quarter, a half, something. Like, I get the risk. It's potentially a stupid thing to say, but like that does matter, right? That is an important factor for them to consider. It's also a back-to-back, right? Like if the chance of injury exists and you can avoid it with infinitesimally small downside, yeah, of course you should do that. So I would understand it if Haliburton, Siakam, starters in general played a little bit against the Magic. When they played Cleveland on Sunday on the road, their spot secure, advantages to losing, especially if they already got a 50th win on Friday. There's no reason that any of their best players should play in Cleveland Sunday. That is my take. You can have your own. That is all the information in and out. Let's talk about the other teams that is related to their current outlook. If the Knicks lose both of their final 2 games, they play the Cavs on Friday night and then the Brooklyn Nets on Sunday. If the Knicks lose both of those games, and the Pacers win against Orlando and Cleveland, the Pacers would be the 3 seed. The Knicks host the Cavs Friday night in MSG, both teams on a back-to-back. And then the Knicks are in Brooklyn. That's a road game. It's kind of a home game. So depending on what you want, root for whoever you want. We'll see who the Cavs do and do not decide to play. We'll see who the Knicks do and don't decide to play. The Knicks played Brunson and Cat Thursday night against the Pistons. So it looks like they were trying to win that game, kind of, but they had a lot of other starters out. Also, Josh Hart didn't play. OG Anunoby didn't play. Anunoby's been amazing recently. We'll see, right? If the Knicks don't want to play the Cavs or do want to play the Cavs, they could have certain incentives in that game. It is also their last home game. So we will see what the Knicks decide to do. If the Knicks win Friday night, the Pacers are locked into the 4 seed. If they lose, it could come down to Sunday, pending what happens in Pacers Magic. If the Pacers lose, they are also locked into the 4 seed. That's Friday night for the Pacers' own seeding. We'll get to their opponent in a second. A lot of people have mentioned to me, the Knicks play the Nets in their last game. Obviously, the Knicks will win because the Nets are tanking. That is true. However, if the 76ers and the Nets both lose Friday night, the Nets will, no matter what, be locked into the 6th worst odds. They can't move up to 5th. They can't move down to 7th. They're locked into 6th worst. So, yes, they aren't going to be playing to, do anything crazy on their last game of the season, but they no longer have true losing incentive anymore. They would just have, a run out the tape incentive. And so if you are absolutely desperate for the Pacers not to be the 3 seed and you want the Knicks to be playing a team with no incentive to win the last game of the season, you are rooting for the 76ers to beat the Hawks Friday night. I know that sounds random, but that would mean the 76ers and Nets are 1 game apart in the standings and would give the Nets a ton of incentive to lose. That's a crazy one. The Nets are in Minnesota. on Friday night. I highly doubt they'll win that game. If they do, they will definitely not be trying in their last game against the Knicks, but they won't be trying to lose. They'll just be playing a game. Okay, the other part of this is the Bucks Pistons of it all. Everybody has their own opinion on who you should want the Pacers to play. Seems like if Dame is back, I think the Bucks are better, right? And in that way, the Pacers would be happier playing the Pistons, I suppose. But they're both tough teams, right? They both present different challenges. Every time I thought, the Pistons seem worse, they would like win 3 games in a row without Cade somehow, or like, they're just good. They play 2 games. They still play each other twice. Currently, the Bucks are 2 games ahead of the Pistons in the standings. Or excuse me, 2. Why didn't this update? The Bucks are ahead of the Pistons by 2 wins in the standings. If the Pistons win both games, both teams will be 46-36 at the end of the season, and both teams will be 7-9 in division games in the season. But the Pistons will have a 31-21 conference record, while the Bucks will have a 29-23 conference record. So if the Pistons win both games, Friday and Sunday against the Bucks, they would pass them and become the 5 seed. If the Bucks win either game, the Bucks will be the 5 seed and the Pistons will be the 6 seed. So who you want to who the Pacers can't know, right? They can't go into Friday going, well, if we want to play the Pistons, we got to angle for 3 and go for the wins. They can't know that. They could win Friday and then the Pistons win and then the Pistons win again and the Pacers get 3 and they play Milwaukee at 6, right? They can't know until after Friday what their angling, if they want a specific opponent, can be, which adds to the layers of the challenges they will have on Friday if they want specific things. So again, that's all your own preference, who you think is the easier opponent for the Pacers, but it's possible. So here's what could happen. If Bucks win Friday and either Pacers lose or Knicks win Friday, it's over. It's Knicks 3, Pacers 4, Bucks 5, Pistons 6. But if the Pistons win and the Knicks lose and the Pacers win, it is still all up in the air and will come down to the final day. We'll break it down after Pacers Magic. I'm sure it was clear as mud. There's a lot going on. The inverse standings are a factor now. What do the Bucks or Pistons even want? Who knows? We'll do our best to decipher it as these games come. You saw last year some crazy nonsense from the Cavs on the last day of the season. The Clippers have done it before. You find out these teams' motivations as these games come. And the Pacers now are in an interesting spot. We'll break it all down here on Locked On Pacers. Tomorrow, Pacers Magic. We'll break it down. Pacers final home game. And then I'm going to Cleveland Sunday for that one. So, of course, podcast after that one from Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. And then by the end of that day, we will know who the Pacers play and all that good stuff. Thank you guys so much for listening today. Hope you learned something either about the Pacers scenarios or the game. Back tomorrow talking Pacers Magic. Till then, everybody have a wonderful day.